All right, here we are with the double exposure digital artwork option. Double exposure is basically two pictures smashed together, just like in this fox example I showed you at the beginning. So to get started, we're going to head on over to Pixlr E. We're going to click on Create New, and we're going to leave it on Full HD and click on Create. Now for this, you don't necessarily have to take a photograph yourself. That is highly recommended, highly encouraged, so that you can get exactly what you want. But I mean, if you want to do like an animal or something like that, I'm not going to require you to go out and get a picture. Here's the image that I'm going to use. I posed my model here in an interesting pose that has some interesting space around it, and that's what we're going to use for this. So first thing I'm going to do is get this picture in here by clicking the plus, going to image, let it think for a second, and then grabbing that picture. Okay, and now that we have our picture in here, we need to isolate our subject. I don't want any of this stuff in the background. I don't need to see the treadmill or the rug or anything like that. So what we're going to do is use the cutout tool. And for this, because it's got quite a bit in the background, we use the lasso tool with a feather of 2. And then I'm just going to zoom in. Oops. And start cutting away the pieces that I don't need. Now, there's a separate video about how the cutout tool works and how to make it work for you the way that you want. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time doing this. If you're unsure about how the way this works, you definitely need to go and watch that video because it's very important. And it is the part that takes the longest time, but gets you the best results in your final product. Okay, so I'm swapping over. Right here, you can see I already did a great job cutting out the outside edge. I didn't cut out anything I didn't want, and now I just got to do this cleanup where I get rid of the rest of this background. Okay, so now that we have our picture, our subject isolated, we don't have anything else, we don't want anything else, we need to find something to mash it up with. This is a double exposure, so we need a picture that will show up inside here. And the one I've chosen is, let me show you, with the plus sign. Click on image, and this is something you can find online. Just doing a Google image search. And this is not the right folder. Desktop. Let's try this one here. A very cool picture of a waterfall, very green, very different from our subject here. All right, and the way we are going to get this to work is, number one, we want our second image to be behind what we cut out. Number two, we want to duplicate our cutout subject by clicking on the 3 dots and going down to the duplicate layer option here. Okay, we're going to hide that layer for now. I'm going to do the same thing here. Go to this one that we can see, and we're going to do a blend mode on this. All right, so by clicking those 3 little dots next to this one that is visible, I'm going to go to blend mode here, and the bottom option is mask. And when we click on this, you will see, ta-da! Now instead of seeing our subject, we see what is behind it in the shape of our subject. Okay, and the nice thing about this is we can go to that background picture and I can move it and find the part that I really, really want to be in this picture. I want that waterfall to be coming down right there. Okay, so once we have that the way that we want it, then we can turn on the other layer. Ta-da. Okay, and we can mess with this one so that we can see as much or as little as that background picture as we want. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots. I'm going to turn the transparency down, and you can see we're starting to see that waterfall show up through it. I want to choose one that shows some of the detail And if you would like, just like in the fox example, some of it you could see the detail through, and other parts of it you couldn't see any. So if I go back to my cutout tool, okay, and this time I'm going to use the lasso mask, but I'm going to bump my feather all the way to maximum. I can, we don't want a green dotted line, undo. We want to make sure we're in remove mode. I can chop off her head, and it'll give me a nice smooth transition where I just see the waterfall, and then it slowly fades in the details of the rest of the subject. We can still see through parts of it because we set our transparency over here. But you could do this with any part of the picture if you want to get rid of the details and really see that background picture. That's how you can do it. All right, the last thing this needs is we need to get rid of this checkerboard. This is transparent here. We want to have something in the background. So I'm going to go back here to my empty layer back here. And I'm just going to grab the draw tool and fill it in basically with a color. We could probably use the paint bucket tool. If I click, guess what? Nothing happens because of this mask, this layer here. We have set to mask. We want to keep that, but that's basically making this a window so that any layer underneath, all we can see is through that window. All right, so one last step before we can see that background is to click on our masked layer, and we are going to click on merge down. All right, that's going to merge that layer with our background layer, and it's going to allow us to see the background here. Okay, now this isn't set to mask anymore. We can see the other stuff. I'm just going to hit the crop option, move things in, move things in. It looks like there's a little bit right there that I need to go in and erase, but that is basically it for the double exposure option. All right, I can't wait to see what you come up with, what subjects you use, and what backgrounds you mash up with it. So let's see what you got. Oops.